Hey guys, Gene here, and here for you today a discussion video talking about the cards getting rotated out when Steel Rebellion comes in. So when Steel Rebellion comes in, the set Chronogenesis is being rotated out into Unlimited, and with that, a very huge change in the meta is going to happen. Especially since this is the first set that introduced Portalcraft to us. So as you can tell, there are going to be a lot of Portalcraft cards that are getting rotated out and allowing our key cards to some of their strategies. So first off, we have the neutral cards, starting with Happy Pig. It's pretty good card, standalone 2-drop. Next we have Chloe, is being used in some sorts of OTK decks and some sort of like Dark Alice in the past. It could be used later in the future if we still had it, but it's getting rotated out, so it was nice seeing you, Chloe. Next we have Goblin Mount Ogre. It's just a good fill-in for 3-drops, also pretty good in the Omen of 1 decks. It's just a slot in as a 3-drop, pretty good stats all around. Nothing much to say about that. Next we have Bob Katha. Was mainly played in aggro decks. Pretty rare to see it go. And that's pretty much it. She could leave for all I care. And we have Fall from Grace, which is just a neutral way of getting rid of like the Lashena portal, the Lashena amulets, destruction of white and destruction of black. Since most classes don't have inherent way to remove them, so some classes just use this card. But since it's leaving, all classes will have less answers to those types of cards. And finally we have Kronos, mainly used in Spartacus Sword. Was used a lot in the beginning when it first came out, but it just stuck to Spartacus Sword nowadays. It'll still probably be played in the Spartacus Swords in Unlimited, but outside of that, it hasn't been really used much. Next we'll go on to the Forest Craft cards. First off, we have Fire Spike Grove. It's alright. Yeah, it's leaving. Leafman, used in a lot of aggro decks, just to buff your board. Rain is a huge thing that's leaving because it will help you bring back the tempo into your own favor. Without it, Forest Craft's gonna have a harder time to win back the tempo. Same with Insect Lord. You just fill your board, destroy something. It's a pretty good card for 2 mana. Next is a card that was not really used as much in rotation, but it's still notable that it's leaving, especially with all the cards here revealed. Arya is very good on Limited, especially why it's limited to 1, but it's still sad to see her go. Now on to Swordcraft. Swordcraft has a bit of them. First off, we have Homebound Mercenary, just a solid 2-drop that you could have gone with Arthur. It's a 4-mana 3/4 if not. Pretty good. Lancer, one of their main ways to clear the board, is leaving. Sad to see that. That's one of the, or I believe to be one of the bigger hits, is Frontline Cavalier. Because nowadays you just play Aether on 3 and you just get a Frontline Cavalier. It's usually the only 4-drop you play. Sometimes some decks play another 4-drop, I forgot which one. But it helped you heal against aggro decks and also just filled your board up. I feel like we're going to be playing the older version, the Floor Fencer, which gives you a 2/2 and a 1/1. But I feel like the 1/2 and the 2 1/2s are a little bit better, and plus the heal is just insane. And we're also losing Darksaber Melissa. It's not really played as much, but it's still a very fan favorite card. And last but not least, Arthur was one of the best cards in the deck. Then it got nerfed, but it could have still seen some play later in the future if we continued to have it down the road. Next we got Runecraft, which this is the first set that introduced the Mysteria mechanic. So a lot of those Mysteria stuff are getting rotated out. So first we're losing Mysteria Knowledge. It was one of the best cards in almost any Runecraft deck. Just 1 mana, you just get a Mysterian Missile or a Mysterian Circle into your hand. It just filled up your Mysteria counter, the Mysteria count up, get your spell boost count up, does all of it. Next was Mr. Bertrand, again another Mysteria card. This is mainly used as a 2-mana 2/2 and just bring out the Mysteria count. That's pretty much what you use it for. The last word's almost never triggers though. Next was in Silent Laboratory. It was good because it was basically a free Earth Sigil because you get a 2/2 out of it. And if it was a Clay Golem, it just was insane with some of the newer spells. Next was using Nova Flare, just an AoE that they had for much more aggro decks. That's pretty much it. Next we're losing Mysteria, which is the best card in the Burn Runecraft decks of right now. Without it, Burn Runecraft cannot find ways to deal enough damage with just their spells in a fast enough manner. Because Mysteria made your Verdict Rituals, if you played 1 Mysteria to 4 damage, if you play 2 Mysteria to 5 damage, if you play 3, you're doing 6 damage for 2 mana. And also your Magic Missiles do 4 if you play 3 Mysteria. It just got out of hand. And since with now Owen, you could search her out, it just got way too insane. So part of me is gonna miss her, part of me is gonna be happy that she's gone. Next we have Chain Lightning, just a decent 5 mana spell, deals 3 damage, and you just get another one back if you have low cards in hand. Next we're losing Grand Summoning. Was a good Earthright card. Dirt Rune didn't even see that much play. The only Dirt synergies you saw was Burn Rune. But I'm not that sad that it's leaving. It barely saw play. I wish it did see more play. This card is really good. And last we're losing Silverblade Golem. It doesn't really matter about Silverblade Golem because the new 5 mana 5/5 that Burn Rune uses does what this does, but a lot more efficiently. And it's cheaper to play. Next we're on to Dragoncraft. First thing that I hit was probably the biggest hit in this whole set for them. Aelia is getting rotated out, which is one of their main ways of ramping. They did get Arrows, but it's a 3 mana 2/3. Being a 2 mana 2/2 means that you could, if you're going second, you could play Dragon's Oracle and Aelia on turn 4, and then you could just automatically go to 6 mana. And that's pretty insane. Because then on the turn after, you just play Arbiter and just go off. Next we have Dragon Aficionado. Mainly playing in some face or aggro style of Dragon decks. Ever since PDK got rotated out, this card has seen little to no play, but it's still notable nonetheless. Next we have Zenitra. She hasn't seen any play except for the beginning when we first got PDK and we first got her. Outside of that, she hasn't seen that much play. But she could see it if she was still in the meta. Next we're losing Frenzy Drake. One of their best AoEs. Just clears everything. Good to see it leave. And Ozzy Dahaka. The one card I'm always scared to see if it's in their hand. Because no matter what, they're evolving like Galamuse for free, evolving some of their stuff like Aelia and Anrose, and then you don't even know if they had an Ozzy since turn 1. That you can have like a 5 mana Ozzy, and then you're just probably screwed. So yeah, the sense of danger this card always presents is pretty terrifying for rotation. Even if some of the decks don't even play him right now, it's still pretty scary to know that he can be ran. Next we're going on to Shadow. Oops. First off, we're losing Gloomy Necromancer, one of the smallest cards you could play for Burial Rite, so the reanimation decks are going to lose a little bit more consistency, but I don't think that much of a problem because the the new card that everyone's using for Reanimator, the new 12 drop, is just destroys itself. So you don't really need Gloomy Necromancer. Yeah, some people also dropping Gloomy Necromancer. So it's not that big of a deal. Next we have Skull Ring. Ever since the nerf, it's seen little to no play, but it's still notable nonetheless to say that we are losing it. Next we're losing Aisha. It's pretty weird that we're losing Aisha and not get the leader for it yet, but to each their own. Aisha was good. Turn 10 helps you finish off your opponent. It's like 10 damage to face. You usually have 10 Necromancy if you're playing Shadow by the end of turn 10. It's pretty easy. Soul Death, Reap Life. Just a good 5 mana card that just reanimates everything you want. And Death Dragon Caller, which usually got back your Mordecai's at turn 8 very efficiently. But this card is not a huge deal that Reanimate lost. Like, Reanimate still seems pretty good because all they really lost was Gloomy Necromancer and Death Dragon Caller. Soul Reap was not even played that much because you had like Carrot Wind and the Crow, who would just get you back all your cards for you. Yeah. Next we're on to Bloodcraft. I don't think Bloodcraft was losing that much this set. We are losing Savage Wolf, which was a very key card in the hand buff blood that we just got introduced to recently, which is pretty sad. Next we're losing Pazuzu, a very solid 3-drop that just deals 1 damage to all your opponent's creatures. It also has Bane. Next we're losing Blood Drinker's Brand. Again, another solid removal spell, as well as could give Drain to one of your Bloodcraft followers. And that's pretty much it. All the other cards were either seen very little to no play, or just are not that significant that we're losing or two or not. Next we have Havencraft. They are losing I think a big chunk. First off, Featherfall Hourglass was a solid 1 mana amulet they had. Gives you a 3/2 with Rush. You can play it on 3 mana, and you just a 3 mana 3/2 with Rush, which is still fine for its cost. Next, we're losing Summit Temple, which I'm glad that it's leaving, because when it first came out, it was rampant everywhere, and the possibility of it being broken in the future with some of their newer cards, it makes me pretty scared if it was still in rotation. So thank God it's leaving. Next we have Gemstone Carapace. Solid 2-drop amulet, give you a 3/5, and it could just decrease its countdown if you just evolve a creature. Next we have Jean. 7 mana, deal 3 to all your opponent's followers, and restore 3 to all yours. Solid 3-drop. Nothing more to say about it. Pegasus Dullahan, mainly played in like the Tenko Haven style decks. So it's a 4-drop. It keeps recurring back with all your amulets. And finally, we're losing Heavenly Knight. Since Summit Temple's leaving, I don't really care that much about this card, but still, anything with Storm and the potential to be stronger is just way too broken in my book. And then finally, we're on to Portalcraft, which is, instead of 2 pages like everything else, it's like 4 to 5 pages. So first, start off straight at the bottom with Biofabrication. One of the better cards for artifact decks. Puts more into your deck, makes them cost cheaper in your hand. Very good. Meta production, 1 mana, could potentially give you resonance, and then end the turn, it just draws you another card. And puts more artifacts in your deck. Acceleration, the best card in artifact decks. It just lets you with analyzing artifacts, just let you churn through your deck as fast as you can. And combined with Deus Ex Machina, it's just a very broken card. Next we got Nilpotent Entity. the one card that Portal could use to survive very big turns, just like and sorcery or stuff like that. Next we got Hamlin, just gives you more stuff to, just makes more copies of stuff that you want to have more copies of, like more artifacts, more puppets, or just more cards in general. Just gives you, just replaces itself just for being a 2-mana 2/1. Next you got Mechwing Swordsman, just a solid 2/2, shuffles into your deck. 2 artifacts, being Analyzing, Ancient, Mystic, or Radiant, any combination of the 2. Next we got Flower Doll. It was one of your key 2-drops in Puppet Portal because, first of all, the 2-mana 1/2 is not that bad, especially since if it dies, you get a Puppet back, so you get a 0-mana 1 with Rush. But if you have 3 or less cards in your hand, it can replace itself with a Puppet and another copy of Flower Doll, so it's pretty good. Next Losing Icarus. Main reason it's sad to see leave, because the Evo effect, it just helps you just get random artifacts from your deck to your hand. Ancient artifacts are also very good because they are 3/1s with Rush, helps you clear out the board, helps you win back the tempo, and stuff like that. The next biggest hit I see is Fervent Machine Soldier. 3-mana 2/3, just get any artifact from your deck to your hand. Was played in every artifact-based deck as a 3-of. Helps with consistency, sad to see it leave. Next we have Substitution, one of their main removal spells. Nothing more to say here. It's great in both artifact and in puppet style decks. Next we got Puppet Room. Was a solid 2 to 3-of in all puppet style decks. Helps you just generate a bunch of puppets. Since you play it, you get a puppet. At the end turn, you get a puppet. And then for the next 2 turns, you just get puppets. Helps you bring down like the count for like Destruction Black and Destruction White much more easily. Next we have Hakrabi. Just gets you artifacts out of your deck as fast as possible. Nothing more to say about it. Next, we're using Spinaria, one of the better cards in the artifact style decks. Helps you control the board and just gives you a little 1-mana artifact that also draws you a card. Not bad. Next, we're losing Otherworld Rift, but ever since the new 4-mana Silver spell came out, this card has basically become obsolete, but still notable to mention that it's leaving. And next, we're losing Saphira, Synthetic Beast. Was the classic artifact portal finisher. Since then 10 mana, it evolves, and then its attack becomes equal to the amount of artifacts destroyed, and has Storm. So it's literally just finish off your opponent for how many artifacts have been destroyed. But now, since we have Maisha, she's basically taking over Saphira, because on 10 mana you can do the same thing, but she needs an Evo point. That's basically it. Also, Maisha is just better and more versatile in general, because you just play her on 3, draw a card, and don't have this card just holding up in your hand. Because even worse for this is that usually discard it off to Deus Ex Machina, and it just made it awkward. And speaking of Deus Ex Machina, she's probably the biggest card that Portal's losing, because Artifact Portal cannot function as well as it did without Deus Ex Machina, because she just refilled your hand every time, and whenever you play an artifact card, you just recover 1 play point, which means your analyzing artifacts are free. Your ancient, the 1-mana 3/1 artifacts are also free. It was just an insane card when it came out as well. Next, we're losing Magna Legacy. Just like Saphira, it has an effect depending on how many ally artifacts were destroyed during the match. But instead of gaining attack and going face, it just deals damage to all enemy followers. It was just a nice control card. Nothing much. It's seen some play here and there, but not much nowadays. And last notable card leaving is Vengeful Puppeteer Noah. Noah was played in the traditional puppet style decks, not the ones that we have right now with Lashena. It was played mainly with Orcus, and it was just a nice way to finish off the game but ever since he got nerfed, he's been seeing much less play, especially that style that style of Portal Craft has also been seeing much less play, especially since Lashena is just much more consistent. So yeah, that's it for all the cards getting rotated out with Chronogenesis. So please tell me what you think of the cards rotating out down below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and Gene out.